Hi, everyone. Welcome to one of a series of workshops that we've held at the EMU Early Childhood Satellite Clinics. My name is Malik. I'm a doctoral student here. I do clinical work here, as well as some teaching work, um, research work, and I also do some clinical work over at Mary, which is at University of Michigan. Each of these places, I personally specialize in child and family, child development type services. And today's workshop will focus more generally on a piece of some of the stuff I work with. Overall, be looking at motion coaching skills, and we'll specifically be focusing in on how we can take care of ourselves as caregivers, parents, so that we could be the best caregiver for our child. Mm. And then also, this is part of just a free resource we like to share with the community, um, just so that um, hopefully, if you need services such as those that are offered by the satellite clinic, you can get those, or you can use this resource just as a self-help resource for you and your family. So, as an overview of this, we're going to go over what emotion coaching is, generally as a skill, a parenting skill. Next, we'll talk about how our own emotions can act as a barrier to practicing emotion coaching. Um, we'll further talk about some strategies that can help. Um, and and this talks about, kind of what happens whenever our emotions are overtaking us. Talk about some self-care strategies, some ways to kind of bolster our own support system, and just some affirmations that we can kind of go through to help us um, in trying to emotion coaching the best we can. So now, what is emotion coaching? So overall, in looking at the skill of emotion coaching, a lot of research shows that emotion coaching, um, the emotion coaching approach, so this is like a kind of steps to a whole approach to parenting, is really valuable in helping children develop emotional intelligence. And that includes the bevy of academic uh, well, it includes helping multiple outcomes, including like academic, emotional outcomes, social outcomes. And so first we'll start by kind of overviewing this, and then we'll kind of talk about uh, some of the pieces on the parent side a little more, um, uh, which this can be talked about on the child side as well. Going through these steps, we'll talk about like kind of the parent's role and focusing on parent self-care. But the first step in this process is being aware of your own emotions. Being aware of your child's emotions and being aware of your own emotions. So it's kind of a side there for that first step, but Um, as a part of emotion education, you're aware of your child's emotions. So that is kind of recognizing when they begin to occur. So you maybe see reddening in the face, they clench their fist, maybe they start twitching, maybe you see them look side to side. So kind of being aware of those earlier stages of when those emotions are about to occur. Some of those big emotions, those ones that lead to kind of explosive behaviors or tantrums. But then, as a aside to that point, and we'll talk about it more later, you want to be aware of your own emotions. And so, just as children, you help their emotions in regulating. As an adult, you're just, you're far steps down the line of emotion regulation, but it doesn't mean you're perfect. And so, pay attention to your own emotions can actually help you attend to their emotions and be in a better emotional state to attend. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. Next. Um, Step two, you want to recognize these emotions, and these like tantrums, these beginnings of tantrums as opportunities to connect and teach. So in these moments, you want to recognize them as these are teaching moments in the practice room of learning how to handle these emotions that this little kiddo is just really beginning to experience for the first time. And they experience emotions before they understand them. So you recognizing these points as crucial points in which you can teach them a lesson that will lead through a lifetime, which is not easy, and sometimes it's not always possible. And so, and And I'll wrap this part up, kind of talking about how often to use emotion coaching. But step three, you want to help your child verbally label those emotions. So it's kind of that next step of recognizing it. Okay, now you're going to try to see and help them label it. So that really entails kind of once you've um, kind of recognized the moment, you've noticed some of the things that have shown have led to this emotion. Well, then you want to help them label it. So you see them clench their fist. You tell them, hey, that's whatever happened, that's unfair. Whenever they took that train car that you really wanted, before you could get to it, that seemed really unfair, and that kind of maybe made you a little angry. And so you give them some of those words, and this really helps because later on, as they begin to develop their word vocabulary, they can tell you how they felt, and this will give you more clues on how to attend to that, address that behavior or that tantrum. And then the fourth piece here, um, is really working to communicate empathy and understanding. So in these moments, you want to try your best to communicate that you understand, that you relate to those feelings. So beyond just labeling the feeling as anger and giving them that word, I kind of did a little bit, and some of these two steps can kind of be flipped, the third and fourth one. But I also communicate understanding. So opposed to be like, you're angry, gives them a word, they can use it. But if you say, you're angry because I would be angry too, right? So that kind of gives them kind of a springboard to really accept that, accept those words, feel like you're on their level. And then the fifth one, which it may be easy to kind of skip to this one, or just recognize the emotions and not address the behavior. But this fifth one, is the point where you set limits. So you tell them, all feelings are good, but we can't break things. It's like okay for you to be angry, but you can't hit your sister, right? And you help them problem solve. So you kind of talk with them, to their ability that they can understand. And of course, you would use more developmentally appropriate words for younger kids, and then you would scale those up as they get older. But you would kind of give them steps like next time when you're feeling this way, what can we do? Or how do you want to plan for next time this might happen? Or what else could we use next time instead of the train car? And so in those cases, you're kind of using all these steps to get to that point. And it's again shown to help kids develop emotional intelligence, that is, that ability to understand, express, and communicate their emotions. And uh, and a final piece of this is that even the parents that use this optimally end up only using this 50% of the time for these outcomes. So it's really sometimes it's impossible, and a lot of times it's hard to do, really hard to do it. And nobody's perfect. And really we want to communicate you're doing your best. So really you want to try to do it 30-40% of the time for good results. And people they do it the best, do it like 50%. And they still get these outcomes. So a part of the theme overall today is not be too hard on yourself overall. And the all these steps are a lot easier to engage in whenever the kiddo is in a much lower emotional arousal state. That means they're kind of working up to their tantrum. And so that's why that first step is kind of important to figure that out. But that's a quick overview. There's other workshops and resources that focus on this specifically. Um, and information of those will be on the website. This one will focus more on the parent self-care. So they're a lot easier to engage in whenever caregivers, we are calm ourselves. And so, how do we make sure we're calm enough to motion coach? Um, so, so it's as I said previously, being aware of your own emotions. So I want you to take a minute just to pause the video and like think about these questions. How does it feel when your child is not following directions? How does it feel when your child's overwhelmed, frustrated, or tantruming? All right, so there's a couple things you can feel, right? You may feel frustrating, like frustrated trying to get stuff done. You did everything you knew they like, and then they're still frustrated for some reason you don't quite understand. So that can be frustrating. You can be concerned, you can be kind of scared. Maybe you're scared about why they're afraid or why they're tantruming. Maybe you're scared because you're thinking, oh, I can never stop this. What am I going to be able to do? I can't always, you know, fill in the blank. And another one, you might be disappointed. You might be like, I got your cup, I got the thing, I got you in, I did all I could, and you still you still couldn't hold your emotions in. So some of the things you may feel um, when your child's not following directions, and then how does it feel? Well, you may feel stress on yourself. You may feel your arousal state, kind of picking up, which, I mean, as you might imagine, will not connect well with the child's arousal state. Um, you also may feel empathy. You may feel this desire to kind of understand what the child is going through, even though it may be difficult. So maybe it's hard to see your child upset and struggling, but you want to empathize with their emotions. And you want to help them feel better. That's good. And you also feel a desire to help strongly, right? Because you care. One of the reasons you're watching this video. You care about your child learning, you care about your child being in a happy state. Um, and the truth is a lot of times they're kind of confuse themselves about some of these feelings, and you want to help them, right? And so these are some things overall, and you may have come up with some other things, but it is important to recognize like how you feel and what that feeling causes you to do emotionally, right? What your body to feel like. So, and as we talk about this, we talk about what we call flooding or flipping your lid. So, so this kind of really covers our own emotions in response to our children's emotions. And these kind of really strong emotions that we may have can get in the way of effectively using these emotion coaching approaches to parenting. And when we have really strong emotions, so your child is having a tantrum and you really want to help and you feel super stressed and you feel empathy and you feel, frustration, these can cause really strong reactions. And sometimes we go into the fight, flight, or freeze mode. And we aren't able to set them aside for the moment um, because we, as caregivers, are flipping our lid or flooding. So that fight or flight mode. And so if you think of the brain, we use this hand model, but if you think of the brain, when everything's working in order, including your prefrontal cortex, which is really responsible for helping you make we call it the thinking brain, so the planning, the organizing, the inhibiting, right? And then you have your limbic system, which you consider that as like the more kind of emotional brain, the action brain, kind of more primal pieces of the brain. So when you flip your lid, we use this hand model to show um, that your emotional brain really takes full control. And so when everything's working good, these are connected, right? So you have your thinking brain, your emotional brain are on board. It's okay to feel emotion, but you can reason, you can think, think of the best decision. When you flip your lid, it's kind of like the prefrontal cortex kind of goes off a line. Wi-Fi is cut off, right? Connection's cut off. And so, um, it's pretty cool. It sees my hand. Anyway, um, took me off. All right. Yes. So it's offline, and so all that's really in control is your emotional brain, right? So you can't really think rationally, and that's what's going to help you emotion coach. So it's the difference between being able to think rationally and respond versus just reacting. And the thing is, you're going to have a better ability than your child to do this. Now, your child is going to have a really bad ability, like a really difficult ability bringing this back in, but you are the most likely one to be able to kind of get back in. And what's really important is not interacting with your child in this state the best you can, right? Because you don't want to join them in their anxiety. You don't want to kind of let it be a spiral. And that's kind of the model we think of when we're talking about it. So it's just easy way to remember as well. And it's difficult to emotion coach till we can bring that back online. Um, and this is just part of parenting. It's not being a bad parent. Let me see if I can odd. Um, hmm, didn't know I did that. That's interesting. Um, but flipping your lid is a normal part of parenting. It's not doesn't mean you're a bad parent. It's just a sign you're overwhelmed. You need to calm down the best you can before you can really engage with your child effectively. It's not that you don't want to, it's just we have these emotions that can get out of hand sometimes, and that's when we need help. That's why we're going through these skills. And so, next we'll talk about some antidotes to flooding. So some easy ones are letting your child know. I mean, because as you let your child know, like, hey, mommy's flooding, mommy's feeling overwhelmed, mommy's emotions are big, dad's emotions are big, right? And so and that gives them it models to them that it's okay to feel overwhelming emotion because sometimes the child is scared about their own emotion, right? And so and that kind of ramps them up as well. So you let them know, maybe let your partner know. If your partner's home, if they're around, you can ask them to come in for a moment because it's more likely that they're in a state that's not being kind of ramped up by the kid's tantrum. Maybe you can tag team and then come back. Another family member, maybe a mom, a grandparent in the home. Just let them know you're flooded. Let them know you're overwhelmed, and then take a break the best you can. Now, time is usually one of the best resources, but you don't always have all the time, right? Um, but do what you can to self-soothe. Do what you can to co-regulate. To co-regulate, as in um, going to that partner to help you calm down. So maybe you take a break and you go with them, and they kind of talk and t help you kind of talk through it, and you come back. Um, And then taking a break could be like taking a 20-minute break to help your body recover. One of the biggest things is time. So whatever time, if you can take a moment, if you're at home, maybe you can take a moment. If you're not at home, maybe you're at the store, maybe you're at something. If you don't have support, there's a lot of times where you can't necessarily do this, but if you can, take whatever time, whatever co-regulation that you can. Even with your partner's right there and the kiddo's having somewhat of a meltdown, you can have just even talk with them in the moment if that helps, because it'll help you find calm. And then once you can, you want to return to the emotion coaching. And one thing you can also do is make a plan with all these things. So kind of if you notice that there's certain times where you get flooded, there's certain times you're already nervous and you kind of may be more likely to do that. Well, then make a plan. You can write some notes down, make a plan where it's like, maybe who you might be around you. So you could be like, okay, I'll plan to talk to them. Maybe there's some places where you can go, like go to the bathroom, something like that, and have like a 5-minute break or, um, and yeah, who you'll be around. But yeah, so those are some of the antidotes to flooding, and really the big piece is taking a break, self-compassion, maybe, and having somebody else around you if you do to help you support you in those moments, and also communicating to your child. At the very least, if it's just you and them, like I need a break, I'll be back. Because again, you may think if I don't attend this to a moment, maybe they receive it as like me being neglectful, me being this, me kind of not being able to handle my own emotions. But actually, it models that emotions can be big and scary sometimes. And children are really just learning that. So now, just why don't you take a moment and think about how you take breaks and pause it. If you did, well, a lot of time we think of self-care as, yoga, face mask, bubble baths, and those are fun. Those are good things. Um, but also like for me and for some people I know, there's plenty of examples, easier kind of things we can fit in that are beyond some of these more stereotypical self-care examples. And there's some, on this picture we have some of these lists at our clinic that we kind of give to parents, but you know, even just take a moment to notice your body, doing some stretches, reading a poem. For me, I'm also like, finding a relaxing scent, something like the smell. For me, it might be like a shower, a good song, like a lot of times I'll find one song, because songs are like can be like 2, 3, 4 minutes, something that I enjoy that kind of take puts me in a different state. And a lot of times that putting you in a different state can kind of help calm you quicker, can switch your emotions to happiness a little quicker, or whatever emotion, whatever, song kind of get you, maybe it can make you feel hopeful, things like that. Meditation and prayer, I use that often myself. Um, it's one of my main self-care strategies. And also, it could just be talking to somebody or sending somebody a nice text, you know, just a quick one or checking in or reaching out to somebody can be helpful. And um, if you have the time, you can, walk outside. I know just like being in nature, as long as it's not as cold. I mean, it's snowing right now, but as long as it's not too cold, you can be in nature. Or just going outside and looking at the stars in the sky and thinking about the vastness of the universe, thinking about how big the world is and how small you are. That can be helpful. These are small things that, like, if you have moments to do them, can be super helpful. Hopefully, you thought some personal examples of your own. And one of the main themes about this workshop and how why we focus on parents is because you can't pour out of an empty cup. You have to put your own oxygen mask on before you can put it on your child. And this may feel cliche to some extent, but it's so true. I mean, 5 to 10 minutes of a break where you can use, some of the emotional intelligence you've learned just being an adult and combine that with a little bit of time, and you put yourself in a much better state to make this the best teaching moment you can for your child. It's not gonna be perfect, but you can do your best. And you're not gonna be able to do your best unless you take care of yourself first. Um, and and some of the work I did with some parent support groups recently, you know, I've noticed that many parents don't do many self-care things. Um, and I think it's actually self-care is a crucial piece to you being able to be the best caregiver to your kiddo. So we just take a break there to kind of really highlight that. Um, and then moving on to some strategies. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these. So I'll briefly cover them. But deep breathing, you may have heard of that one. That one's one I use a lot as well. You're like, I can breathe slow. What is this? Well, if you do it the specific way, so you want to sit, comfortable place, close your eyes, maybe put one hand on your chest, breathe in, slow breath out. It's important that you breathe in and get as full as you can in your diaphragm, full. Hold it for a couple seconds and then take a slow breathe out. So if you had a candle in front of you, you want to blow so slowly that you're not going to blow it out, but it just wiggles a little bit. That's important because expand your diaphragm and then it kind of gives space, um, within your chest cavity, giving less pressure on your heart, more oxygen to the brain, more space. Um, but just the research shows it calms the nervous system, reduces anxiety in general, slows your heart rate because when your diaphragm's expanded, your heart beats a little faster. Diaphragm, or yes, your diaphragm is pressed against your heart, but whenever it's more space in there, it slows the heart rate. Um, Blood oxygenation increases, and so on here. And there's some free apps you can do that. One is Calm, Headspace. iBreathe, there's some apps, but I'm sure you can find one if you search that might be best for you. We're gonna move to the next one. So the next one is progressive muscle relaxation. So this one specifically is finding that calm space. And part of it may be breathing to get going, but you're really going to take time to focus on muscle groups, maybe your shoulders, your hands, your feet, and you're just constricting, engaging those muscles for short periods and relaxing them and seeing how that feels. And this is one of the important pieces about this is that not only does it kind of like use your energy and make you feel more rested, but also it allows you to see what it feels like whenever you're tense versus when you're not tense. Because sometimes if you're always tense, you don't really know that you are because you're so tense. But if you like do this, you tense it up and you let it go, you're like, oh, like you see the range of what tensity feels like, the stress feels like. So it's good. It's helpful for you, but there's a lot of videos on YouTube for progressive muscle relaxation that can be helpful. There's long ones and short ones. So these can be helpful ways. If you have the time to step out and do some of these things, can be very helpful and effective to allowing you to be the best emotion coach that you can be. Now just pause the video and take some time to think about, somebody that you could potentially reach out to. Like what support systems do you have? That you think you have access to. All right. So for some people, it might be, a friend, right? A neighbor, a family friend, a family member who lives close. That'd be close enough where you could reach out to support and get that on a regular basis. Maybe it's a church. Um, there's many churches in the area. There's also community organizations akin to a church. Community organization can be a place for you to go get help, resources, call somebody, talk to somebody. Great place to make friends. And then other parents, right? Parenting support groups are around. Some are associated with our clinics, but also maybe like Facebook groups, things like that. Mom Power is a group that we typically do here. We hold groups regularly, and those groups are specifically groups for moms to come and receive support with their children, and there's childcare involved, at least for the in-person groups. But yeah, just thinking about like just it might be helpful to jot down people you can reach out to in your community. So, and appreciating all the work, the hard work you put in. The fact that you're here, you're listening, is because you want to support your child to grow up and have the most emotional intelligence that they can. You want them to have success in the world. Um, so it's really important to know that nobody's perfect. Messing up provides an important opportunity for you to normalize the mistakes and model apologies and repair. So dad's having big feelings. Dad messed up earlier. He yelled. Dad let his big feelings get in control. Dad let his big feelings control the will. And I apologize for that. And you were sad about this. And I love you. Bringing those moments of normalizing that the times when your emotions get a control of you, and having those moments of repair, those are vital as well. Showing them that it's okay to be imperfect. And we all are. And it's really important not letting all or nothing thinking kind of take the control of how you feel. You're giving a lot of effort. You're doing the best you can. And so there's no such thing as a perfect parent, and you shouldn't try to be that. And if somebody tells you that they can help you become the perfect parent, they are lying or they're trying to sell you something. So, yeah, just normalizing, giving yourself compassion, normalizing some of these things. And as a part of that, we do have just some things, some mantras, some things you can repeat to yourself, some good positive thoughts that you can kind of speak to yourself to remind yourself in these moments wherever you're feeling beating down on yourself, whenever you're feeling some of these kind of spiraling, feeling like a bad parent. So here's some of these mantras. So all parents make mistakes. I'm trying my best. I'm not alone in this. And you kind of think what, other support member, and it may be, um, your faith following, um, you know, you may feel spiritually not alone if maybe there aren't people close to you. Um, all feelings are okay. Feelings come and go like waves. You're your child's safe space. You want to do your best to be a safe holding space for them as they, stumble through these emotions that we've been experiencing for at least a little bit longer than them. Calm is contagious. Just like anxiety, calm is contagious. So if you meet their anxiety with the calm, even if it's really hard on your part, that's one of the best ways to get them into a calm, and then it's contagious to you, and then you're both calm. You know, you're the best parent for your child. You are the best parent for your child. Um, you're bringing your calm here, and you're sharing your calm. You're not joining their chaos. So, so that's the workshop here. Um, there's further resources on the website, as along with this resource that we send out. Um, and we have support groups and therapy openings. I would check the Eastern Michigan University Satellite Clinic's website for openings and for support group availability. But otherwise, I think if you're enjoying this, um, watching this video, and you're the best parent for your child. And this video is a step of you trying to be that, and they will benefit from that.